This show is really addictive. I couldn't stop watching. I had to binge the entire season.
Well, you should seek help for that. That's worrying. That's worrying.
What I like best about it is that each week, as the audience, we get a little piece of the puzzle into these characters and their situation.
Yeah.
As actors, did you get the entire season at once? Did you know what was going to happen, or did you find
Thank
out
God, no.
one script at a time, and did you have any surprises?
All the time. Surprises, yeah.
When I took the project on, I didn't know that Mary J. Blige and I were going to have a scene where we're stoned and dancing like crazy, lighting things on fire. That was a bit of a surprise, to be sure. I had to do some stretching and get ready.
Do some research. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I am the dancer. Yeah.
Yeah, and also at the beginning of the whole journey, I talked to Steve and a couple of the other writers about kind of the broad strokes of Klaus's journey, And so, I talked about a kind of a version of the journey that I knew was going to go on, which changed actually quite significantly by the time we got to the execution of the actual filming. So, I think it was better that we were slightly drip fed the scripts, time in advance. It wasn't as if it was like the day before. But it was nicer just kind of going with it and just what will be type feeling,
Yeah, because eventually, I think you do so much work on your characters that all Steve is doing now, and he's placing you in a certain situation now and see how you would, fight or flight mode kind of thing in each scene. So that was there was a lot of less pressure instead of just getting the whole season and then trying to figure out your own arc as it goes along, where you're actually just giving this little piece, play that day, this little piece, play that day. And then you just hopefully see the last result, and it hopefully doesn't look bad. That's
hopefully.
And what did you have to do for the audition? Did you audition for the roles that you were eventually cast in, or did you audition for another role first?
Oh, I auditioned for Pogo.
I was up for Luther first.
Pogo?
Yeah. He does a great pogo.
For Hazel.
It's fun, yeah.
And when you read in the comics, even Gerard Way, and everybody was very aware that you couldn't really transfer exactly what Hazel and Cha-Cha are from the comics to the screen. These sort of just adorable, bubbly psychopaths. We needed more layers and all that. So when I got to the audition, they were still sort of figuring him out. And I'm reading the comic and I'm reading the audition, like I don't know how to reconcile these. So I went into the audition, did something you're not typically supposed to do. I asked the casting director, what do you want? And she said,
what do you want?
Exactly. And she said, I don't know. Yeah. So I just auditioned, and apparently Steve Blackman saw it and liked where I was going with Hazel. And I got the first 3 episodes, and when I took it, and again, there wasn't a lot to go with who he is, so I just had to fill in the blanks, and then as the show went on, I got to know him more and more. It was a little scary to not know your character in a way, but what was kind of fun about Hazel is incorporating that, making him a little vague, a little identity-less. And he doesn't all he has is work. He's never really thought about who he is.
Yeah, he doesn't really have a sense of self.
Which is scary as an actor. You want to be as specific as possible, but I think as the show goes on, Hazel, he gets a little more specific. He kind of wakes up a little bit. It was kind of rare. It was kind of fun.
I wanted to ask all of you, what did you like best about the character that you played?
I liked that he was, underneath him being such a prick, he was really, really caring. Like, he has a big heart. That was a nice thing. And the fact that Steve wanted to make sure that he was vulnerable to things, instead of being this just tough guy who just can go through the whole day and just be one tone. He wanted to give this guy something different compared to like other things that we've seen before. So that was kind of cool.
Yeah, I sort of liked the untethered, uninhibited, I suppose not permission, but when they cast me, I think they were up for the idea that I was going to sort of bring lots of kind of chaotic wildness, and And they just let me run with it, you know. They really indulged any sort of lunacy that I was willing to, or that I sort of come up with or hatch on the day. So that was really fun, just feeling completely unrestricted. And whenever you feel a feeling of restriction or inhibition, you just sort of transfer it into something else and go, actually, I don't need to listen to that voice because I'm playing Klaus and I can be and do anything. You know, and that was the sort of philosophy that permeated his look, his behavior, you know. But really, people who do that, there's a fragility to them, you know. And so we started off with this kind of slightly insane character who's kind of falling apart at the seams. But then you start to see, you know, the soft and gooey and traumatized center of the character, you know, as the thing goes on. So it was a lot to play around with, you know. There was many colors on Klaus's palette, thankfully.
I loved playing a lost villain. You know, most villains in pretty much anything you see know exactly who they are. They're very confident. Often it's the good guys who are finding their identity. So it was really fun to play a guy who's one of the bad guys, and maybe he doesn't even know he's one of them yet, you know. He's just a little out of his element, a little confused.
Yeah.
It's kind of unique, you know.
There's that corporate element, isn't there, to Hazel and Cha-Cha, that, you know, there's the idea that they're company workers and they don't consider anything past, you know, the morality past that.
Exactly, yeah.
It's like Ron Livingston in Office Space.
Yeah. It's
He was an assassin.
it's the idea that even if you were a time-traveling assassin, after years, the uniqueness of that would lose its luster, and then it's just a job to you.
Yeah.
It's like,
Kind of, that's the show in general. There's like superpowers, but nah, you know, I've lived with them my whole life, and you know, I've made some bad choices with them.
Frankly,
You know, everything's kind of bogged down in
kind of
reality.
no responsibility to it.
You know.
Yeah.
The relationship between the siblings is dysfunctional, but they still have this very close bond because of what they've been through together. Mm-hmm. Which of the cast members did you feel the closest bond to?
Well, his arm is around me, so.
And as the afternoon goes on, the other arm is going to creep around as well until we're like this. And then for all of the press,
Then
weeping.
Cameron's going to lay on top of us.
And I had other cast members that I enjoyed very much.
No, I suppose I had, you know, you could have unique little relationships with everyone. So, I don't know, I find they're not necessarily rankable because they're not comparable, you know. But thankfully, you know, I was speaking just for myself, a very wide-ranging and varied type of relationship with lots of different people. But thankfully, it was all positive. Thank God.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know,
Most of my scenes were with Mary J. Blige, so we got to know each other a lot, and you know, was a pretty fascinating human being. You could ask Mary about the first 20 years of her life or the next 20, and they're so varied and they're such unique experiences for anybody that it was hard to be bored around her. I'll say that much.
yeah.
Yeah.
And finally, I'd just like to ask, what would you like to see happen in a second season?
I think we should see Klaus finally rise to his rightful position as academy leader and become like the new Reginald Hargreaves, for example.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, if Hazel comes back, that means he didn't live happily ever after. So that's kind of a bummer for him. I'd feel pretty bad.
Yeah, and I really hope he didn't.
I want to see your face.
Yeah.
I hope I get addicted to prescription pills.
I'd like to see more animals in the show.
Yeah, there
You know what
weren't
I mean?
any,
There
were
was
there?
Pogo,
Except
but we
for
need
Pogo.
more like exotic animals.
Like an
Yeah.
eagle.
Yeah, or a
Okay.
giraffe.
Yeah.
A giraffe or an aardvark. It'd be great to throw in an aardvark for some reason.
Okay.
There was a taxidermied aardvark in the Umbrella Academy, actually, who I was constantly staring at.
I didn't realize they were so big, and it makes me wonder why people don't eat them more. They kind of look delicious.
Cameron! Leave them
How
alone!
dare you, Cameron?
Well, you know, they're eating ants, and
Yeah,
those things aren't bothering anybody.
they are. Ants are annoying and stingy. We need aardvarks to keep the ant population down.
Good point. Thank you so much for talking to me today. I think this show is going to be such a huge success.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Lovely to
Appreciate
hear.
it.
Appreciate it.